There are people who dream every night, and people who claim they never dream at all. But an empty mind is not always a locked room. Sometimes it is an open door, waiting for something lost to find its way in. Welcome to Nightmares in Small Doses. I agreed to take part in the study because they paid $200 a night. That is the least dramatic truth and the one I'm most ashamed of. I did not go out of scientific curiosity. I did not go to help anyone. I had been unemployed for 4 months. The rent was overdue, and the advertisement simply said, adult volunteers wanted for a clinical study on REM sleep patterns. 3 nights. Daily compensation. No experimental medication. The no experimental medication part convinced me. The $200 convinced me even more. The Silver Creek Sleep Institute was on a quiet street near a decommissioned elementary school. It was an unassuming building with beige walls and narrow windows. Inside, it smelled of disinfectant, burnt coffee, and new plastic. The doctor in charge was called Dr. Seyfried. She had gray hair tied back behind her head and a voice so low it forced people to lean in to hear her. "The study is simple," she said as I signed the forms. "We will monitor brain activity during deep sleep and observe spontaneous synchronizations between participants." "Synchronizations?" She smiled. "Rhythms, breathing, heartbeats. The human brain seeks company even while asleep." The way she said that should have bothered me. The human brain seeks company, as if it were some starving thing. There were 5 volunteers that night: me, a student named Melissa, a bus driver named Ralph, a woman in her early 50s named Judy, and a very young guy, maybe 20, named Darren. No one seemed especially scared. We were all trying to look like rational adults who had not sold a night's sleep for money. The room where we would sleep was long and white. 5 beds lined up, 5 bedside tables, 5 monitors against the wall. On each bed there was a sensor cap and 2 thin wires with round adhesive pads to stick to the temples. In the corner of the room, behind a translucent curtain, there was a 6th bed. "Is there another participant too?" I asked. Dr. Seyfried did not even look. "Old equipment. We no longer use it." The curtain moved slightly, even though the air conditioning was off. Before we went to sleep, they asked us questions. Whether we took antidepressants, whether we had epilepsy, whether we suffered from sleepwalking, whether we had recurring dreams. When that question came up, I hesitated. "I don't dream much," I said. "Never?" "Almost never." Dr. Seyfried looked up from the tablet. "Since when?" I could have lied. I told half the truth. "Since I was a child." She waited. "My sister died when I was 10, I added. "I was asleep when it happened." Her pen stopped for a second. "My sister's name was Haley. She was 6 years old. One night in August, she got up to get some water. With a glass of water in her hand, she went out the back door to see our dog, who slept in the kennel outside. She must have tripped over something and fallen into the pool at our house. She did not know how to swim. My mother found her dead in the morning. I slept through the entire night. After that, I stopped dreaming. At least that was how I had always told the story to myself. The brain closed the door. There were no more images, no more impossible corridors, only darkness, waking up, and that old guilt sitting on my chest like a stone." Dr. Seyfried wrote something down. "People who don't dream are rare," she said. "Am I lucky?" She looked at the 6th bed behind the curtain. "We don't know yet." I should have left at that moment. Instead, I lay down. They stuck the adhesive pads to my temples. The gel was cold. The cap squeezed my head. To my right, Melissa laughed nervously. "Looks like we're going to contact aliens," Ralph said, "as long as they pay first." Teresa crossed herself in secret, pretending she was only adjusting her sweater. She pretended she was just scratching her chest, but I saw it. At midnight, the lights went out. Only the green glow of the monitors remained. Dr. Seyfried's voice came through the intercom. "When you wake up, do not speak immediately. Wait for the team. If you feel as though you were still dreaming, say out loud, 'This is mine.'" I found the phrase strange. "Shouldn't we say it isn't real?" Darren asked. There was a pause. "No," the doctor replied. "We need the brain to recognize ownership." Then came a low, rhythmic hum, like an engine buried beneath the floor. I fell asleep quickly. For the first time in 20 years, I dreamed. I was in the hallway of my old elementary school, but the walls were covered in white tiles, just like the institute's. The fluorescent lights flickered at irregular intervals. At the end, there was a red door that had never existed in my school. Melissa was beside me. I knew it was her without having seen her before in that dream. She had the sensor cap on her head, but the wires came out of her temples and disappeared into the walls. "Is this normal?" she asked. Her voice echoed as if we were inside a cistern. Ralph appeared, sitting in a bus seat in the middle of the hallway. Judy was barefoot, holding an unlit candle. Darren appeared last, breathing fast. "We're all having the same dream," he said. No one answered, because we all knew it was true. The walls began to lose their shape. First, I saw my school, then a hospital room that must have belonged to Judy. Then the cab of a bus at night, rain on the windshield and headlights on the road. The hallway did not choose one place. It used pieces of us, badly stitched together. Then we heard the first cry. It came from behind the red door. It was a child. My throat closed up. I knew that sound before I recognized it. It was not Haley's voice. It was worse. It was the idea of her voice assembled from the guilt I had kept buried. Judy touched my arm. "Don't open it." "I know. But in dreams, our hands betray us faster than they do in real life. When I realized what I was doing, my fingers were already on the doorknob. The door opened into a dark room. In the center, there was a tank of still water. Its surface reflected the lights of the study room. 5 green monitors, 5 beds, 5 sleeping bodies, and the 6th bed behind the curtain. There was someone in that bed, or something. We could not see its face. We only saw a thin shape lying on its side, covered by sheets up to its neck. Thick black wires came out of its head and disappeared into the ceiling. In the dream, Melissa began to cry. "We have to wake up." The intercom crackled inside the dark room, even though we were dreaming. Dr. Seyfried's voice said, "Do not approach the 6th participant." The thing in the bed turned its head. The monitor beside it began to beep. The sound synchronized with my heart. I woke up screaming. We all woke up. The room was full of nurses. The lights were on. Melissa was ripping sensors from her head. Darren was bleeding from the nose. Judy was repeating a prayer. Ralph was sitting on the bed, motionless, his eyes fixed on the curtain. Behind it, the 6th bed was empty. "What the hell was that?" I asked. Dr. Seyfried was standing in the doorway, pale but calm. "An episode of shared dream contamination." There was someone in that bed. There wasn't. We saw it. She looked at each of us. "The study is over for today. You will receive your payment on the way out." But I did not leave. I should have taken the money and gone home. I should have let Melissa scream at the receptionist, Ralph threaten to call the police, Darren vomit into the trash can in the hallway. But her phrase stayed lodged inside me. Dream contamination. She did not say hallucination. She did not say nightmare. She said contamination. When everyone was busy, I went back to the office corridor. The door to the technical room was ajar. Inside, there were screens with our names, brainwave graphs, heartbeats, and a sixth record. Participant 0, no name. Continuous REM. The line beside it did not rise and fall like the others. It was a slow, perfect wave, without pauses. Underneath there was a note. Do not allow isolation. The subject seeks external architecture. I heard footsteps behind me. It was Dr. Seyfried. For a second I thought she was going to call security. Instead, she closed the door slowly. There are people who cannot wake up, she said. Who is it? We don't know. He was found 11 years ago in an abandoned wing of the old hospital. He had no documents, no registered fingerprints. He did not respond to pain, light, or sound, but he dreamed. And you connected us to him? We connected you to one another. He got in because he found space. What space? The doctor looked at me with an almost professional sadness. Yours. On the second night, I came back. It was not courage. It was misdirected panic. Dr. Seyfried told me that after the first synchronization, leaving without closing the cycle could cause intrusions. She did not explain. She did not need to. That afternoon, while I was trying to sleep at home, I heard Haley breathing under my bed. When I looked, there was no one there, but the floor was wet. I went back to the institute. This time there were only 3 of us, me, Melissa, and Ralph. Judy had quit. Darren was in the hospital under observation. Dr. Seyfried looked as though she had not slept. If you see the 6th participant, she said, do not give him names. Do not answer questions. Do not show him a door you recognize. And how do we wake up? Melissa asked. The doctor hesitated. Say, this is mine, and grab the first thing that belongs to you. We fell asleep with our hands strapped to the sides of the beds so we would not tear off the sensors. This time, the dream began in the pool where my sister had died. I was waist deep in water. The sky was the ceiling of the institute. The monitors glowed among the stars. Melissa was on a kitchen table, surrounded by empty chairs. Ralph was driving a bus without wheels through the water, and there were walls around us. Walls made of static, not like an old television, like skin full of pins and needles. They pulsed, opened small cracks, and inside those cracks there were teeth. Not mouths, only teeth, fixed in the shadow, grinding very slowly. Don't look at the walls, Ralph said. Behind us, a child's voice asked, Which one is my home? Melissa covered her ears. Don't answer. The child was standing on the water. It did not sink. It was Haley's size, but its face was smooth, unfinished, like clay before fingers had shaped it. I know your name, it said to me. You don't. I know who died while you were sleeping. The water rose to my chest. Ralph's bus stopped. The doors opened. Inside, sitting in the seats, were all the passengers he had ever seen fall asleep on night journeys. Their heads were resting against the windows. All of them turned their eyes toward us. Melissa grabbed my hand. On her wrist were nail marks that had not been there when we fell asleep. This isn't just yours, she whispered. It's using you to reach ours. The faceless child smiled without a mouth. He doesn't dream. He is a corridor. That was when I understood. My lack of dreams was not a wall. It was an empty room, an unoccupied space where something could build doors. The child raised its hand and pointed behind me. The 6th participant was there, this time standing. It was too tall. It had gray skin stretched tight over its bones and black wires coming out of its temples like wet hair. Its head was tilted to the left. In place of eyes, there were 2 small green lights, just like the monitors. When it spoke, it used my voice. This is mine. The walls of static opened all their teeth at the same time. Ralph screamed, and the bus filled with water. Melissa vanished up to her neck. I tried to say the doctor's phrase, but the thing said it with me, word for word, learning the shape of my mouth. This is mine. I woke up with a brutal pain in my temples. I was not in bed. I was standing in the middle of the room, still connected to the wires with the sensors torn from the other two. Ralph was having convulsions. Melissa was looking at me as if I'd entered her room during the night with a knife. There was no blood on my hands. There were wires, black, viscous wires caught between my fingers, as if I had pulled them from inside someone's head. Dr. Seyfried ran toward me. What did he say? I could barely breathe. Who? Him. What did he say? Before I could answer, the intercom turned on by itself. My voice came through the speakers, but I was not speaking. Thank you for the room. The lights burst. I do not remember leaving the institute. I remember running down the street barefoot with the sensor cap hanging from my neck. I remember Melissa behind me, crying and sirens in the distance. I remember looking back and seeing in a second-floor window a tall figure watching us. It had no wires. It no longer needed them. That was 5 days ago. The institute is closed. The news says there was a short circuit and 3 minor injuries. I cannot contact Melissa. Her number rings once, and then I hear water. Ralph appears in the hospital records as stable, but the nurse told me he still has not woken up and that he repeats my name in his sleep. I have not slept since that night. Not out of heroic choice. I cannot. Every time I close my eyes, I feel someone awake inside my head. It does not speak. It does not think. It only scrapes inside me, slowly, as if widening a hole behind my eyes. Yesterday, I found something in my room. A white plastic hospital bracelet lying on my pillow. It had my name on it. Underneath, where the admission date should have been, it said, Participant 0. Continuous REM. Today, I went to the house where Haley died. The pool no longer exists. My uncle had it filled in with concrete years ago, but there was water on top of the concrete. A shallow, impossible puddle, perfectly still. I knelt beside it. In the reflection, I saw my sister behind me. It was not the thing. I know it was not. It was Haley as she should have been if she had grown up, an adult, sad, with wet hair stuck to her face. She looked at me and shook her head. Then she pointed at my reflection. Behind my eyes, 2 green lights came on. I went home and locked the door. I am writing this to stay awake for a few more minutes, maybe another hour. But my fingers are beginning to fail on the keys. My head keeps falling forward. The room smells of disinfectant and still water. Now I understand why Dr. Seyfried called me space. I was not a volunteer in a study. I was the empty bed, and there is something inside me, about to fall asleep for the first time outside the laboratory. Thank you for joining me for another dose of nightmares. If you enjoyed the story, be sure to subscribe and leave a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you'd like even more stories to keep you awake at night, consider joining my Patreon, where you can read and listen to exclusive nightmares you won't find anywhere else. Until next time, happy nightmares.